Hier is ongelooflik, ons gesels vanoggend met Joan Louwrens en dis oor haar nuwe boek A Wilder Life. Good morning, Joan.
Good morning.
How's it going in Knysna?
Well, we have a windy, rather stormy day, but it's always very beautiful in Knysna.
That's nice, daar. So, Joan, let's start at the beginning. We're going to talk about the book, but I want to take you back to Rhodesia, if I've got it right. Just you growing up and just like at the age of 17 pilot license and basically self-funded. It's for me it sounds like you were very independent from the get-go.
Yes, I was. I grew up with a father who was very brilliant, but somewhat intolerant of those less gifted than himself, if I can put it that way. And he was very much a boermakerplan. So as children, we were expected to get on with it and be rather self-reliant, whether we wanted to be or not.
And just basically to let people know who we're talking to, A Wilder Life is not about young people partying. It's your amazing journey as a doctor. You took the road less traveled. You were, I think, with real doctor. Oh no, every doctor is a real doctor, but I think we're helping in areas and getting involved. Where there's no backup, there's nothing, and the whole book is your story. So just when was the first time you thought as a child, I want to be a doctor and I want to make a difference?
Yes, I think I am very unusual in that I came from a totally non-medical family. My father had a huge disdain for medicine. We weren't allowed to get sick. But unfortunately, my mother was a chronic asthmatic. And so every now and again, much to my father's irritation, we would be bundled into the back of the car with my mother gasping, and we would be thrown into a corridor in the hospital. And it sparked a curiosity in me because I'd never had contact with medicine. And I started to think, what do these people do? They're like magicians. They fix people and they care for people, which was something that I wasn't used to. My father was an engineer, so he cared for things rather than people. And so I had a growing curiosity as a child. And although I didn't start medicine, I very quickly, I always knew it's what I wanted to do, despite what my parental force was telling me I had to do.
Yeah. And then where did you study?
I studied at UCT, University of Cape Town.
And then I have to ask the change. Any doctor, I mean, it's a career you choose, and you can specialize, or you decide you're going to be a GP and you're going to be in the platteland, or you're going to go in a partnership in the city. But then you get doctors like yourself that goes on a road. Go on a road that's just amazing. Was it something during your studies when you thought, I'm not going to just do the typical thing. I want to do something totally different?
No, in fact, it wasn't. I think during my studies, I was just the conventional student who wanted to get the job done. But I was always insatiably curious, particularly about the natural world. I spent most of my weekends climbing mountains as a student, or canoeing down the rivers in the Cape, or generally being outdoors. So the outdoor wilderness environment always attracted me. And then I married a very adventurous man also. He was also an engineer. And one of the first things we did after I did my housemanship is we traveled through Central America in the back of a combi, in the combi that we had for 6 months, and then got a job in Swaziland. So already I was thrown into a sort of wild area. But if I actually look back, I always intended to specialize. I intended to get into a nice, clean speciality and, be a bit of an academic, get good at one or two things. And then in Swaziland, I think it's where I was exposed to the most unpredictable things, tractors driving over people, snake bites, dog bites. And I started to relish the kind of intervention that I got there. And I thought, I wonder if this isn't something I'd really like to remain in. But life goes on and things changed. And I would say that in the end, I sort of fell into it more than planned it.
To me, you're like the Mike Horn of doctors. But we're going to chat. Just stay tuned. We're going to chat just after 7. I've got a lot of questions about the book and motivate people to get this book. It's a lovely read. Soos ons nou weer verder praat, Joan. Jy nou net ingeskakel het vanoggend met die skrywer Joan Louwrens, maar ek wil ook sê die dokter, en oor haar nuwe boek A Wilder Life, en is 'n ongelooflike interessante lewe wat sy gehad het as 'n dokter wat haar reg oor die wêreld gevat het oor plekke wat ander mense as eksoties sien, maar ook rowwe terrein. Welcome back, Joan.
Hello, Zan.
So, Joan, I just want to first take you back. We spoke briefly about that first experience in Swaziland, especially that tractor accident. You know, you're in the middle of nowhere. You're a young doctor. It's not just phone a helicopter, get an ambulance. You know, that must be very stretching.
Indeed, very scary. And you sort of have to just go with the flow and hope that you're adequately trained to do something. And I realized very quickly that my conventional medical training was perhaps somewhat inadequate when you're faced with, in the middle of a cane field, a man who is almost pulseless, and you're trying to get up an intravenous line and you're sickling. And that's also when you realize that we all have to help each other. And a young man came to the fore and said, "Miss, can I help you? I was a medic in Rhodesia." And I said, "Please." I mean, I was like desperate. This man was going to die. And he taught me something I would never have learned at medical school. And that was that you can rehydrate a patient by putting a line up into his rectum and infusing fluid into the rectum. And in that way, this young man with 2 weeks of medical training was far superior than my 6 years.
That's amazing. And then I want to get to more personal stuff, but I mean, you from there you went to Kruger Park, and then from on a boat to South America, and even the Australian outback, and you were on the Silk Route, and then Antarctica. And at one of the photos was just beautiful. Your consulting room on the Silk Route was just this tent, looks like an explorer's tent, and that's basically your praktijk. You know, it's just the memories. That's why I really want to motivate people to get this book. It reads. I mean, you're drawn into your life within the first couple of pages. It's just such amazing life. Some of your fondest memories with these trips, and I want to talk about Pete and the 2 girls as well, now full-grown women. But what were some of your fondest memories with all these trips?
You know, when I look back on it, I suppose I've just been an inherent traveler all my life. And every place you go to, you think, this is so amazing. But if I think of the 3 motivating places that I always wanted to go to, and they rewarded me incredibly, was China, which to me as a child was just a big red box that I didn't know anything about. I always wanted to climb in the Himalayas, and I had this desire to go down to the wilderness of the Antarctic. And I suppose if I have to be honest, the Antarctic was one of my prime aims, and it certainly did not disappoint. It has a wild aspect to it that I don't think is captured anywhere else in the world. Even though I'm a land person and I'm a desert person, it has the same quality of wilderness and untouched, and I hope that it remains untouched and unspoilt by man.
And you're such an inspiration, I think, for women and even men, and even for everybody. And losing your husband, you know, and your two daughters on this adventure, you know, that emptiness. Was it a massive thing to deal with? Did it help the travel? You know, just some of that experience.
Yes. My husband and I was really good mates with my husband. I mean, we had fun, we shared adventure, and I looked towards a long life of adventure and different things with him. And then he died at 32, and I had a 4-year-old, and a 4-month-old, basically. But he had great confidence in me, and he had said very unemotionally before he died, well, just get on with it, Joan. You have to bring these girls up. And I suppose if there's only one advantage in losing your life partner, it's that you then can make the decisions. There's no discussing. You decide what you want to do. And I think that one of the first decisions that set me off, realizing I could adventure, even with the girls when they were small, was when I took a job on Tristan da Cunha, that little island in the middle of the South Atlantic, on the South Atlantic Ridge, and went there for 6 months. It had always been a small passion of mine. I'd seen the evacuation of Tristan when the volcano erupted as a child of 10 in Zimbabwe, because we had TV. You guys here in South Africa didn't. And when I landed up going there, it was like, I can't believe this. And then I realized that I liked going off into wild places. And I had my children with me, and hats off to the headmistress of their school, which was Mickelfield. And I phoned up literally 10 days before and said, I'd like to take my children out for 6 months. And her reply was, go for it. They'll learn so much more than being in school. So my children did have to put up with being dragged around a little bit, but I was fairly serious about not disrupting their studies, and they worked hard and did well, and most of my long trips were all done once they were out of school.
And I saw that even today, I mean, they're global citizens and with professional jobs. The experience you gave them was just, I think, amazing. And just finally, how's your health? I know there was 2 hip replacements. Are you enjoying the farm? And just being rustig?
No, I've actually had 3 hip replacements.
Oh, 3!
My joints are totaled out, but I'm largely responsible for that, I guess. It doesn't. Cycling has been a mainstay of my life. My trips, I've cycled through Africa, through Asia, in Tibet. And one thing you can do, even if your body's a little trashed, is that you can cycle. And these days with e-bikes, you can cycle even more easily. So yes, I still walk the mountains here. I mean, Knysna is an outdoorsman's paradise. And I do believe that staying fit, and even though your physical abilities are dropping off as you get older, I think you have to keep utilizing them, because half of it is therapy for your brain when you are out there exercising.
Joan, thank you so much. En ons gaan mense motiveer om die boek te koop. Dit was fantasties om met jou te gesels. Lekker dag, lekker naweek.
Baie dankie.